What is up, guys? We're just going to be doing a trading recap for today's session on December the 1st. The new monthly candle just opened, so we're just going to break down what I was anticipating today. I did take two trades, one loss and then a minor win, so we were able to mitigate that loss into a very minor loss. I'll be honest with you, today's trading session was a little tricky today, especially because NFP is this Wednesday, so it was hard to navigate personally, because you were able to frame both sides. But just let's get to it. Starting off, I was mentioning on the weekly prep that I wanted to see some type of retracement. If you do recall, I did mention that how we were in a premium here. Just get this here into a premium right here. So I wanted to see at least not I would like personally, I wasn't really confident with this first BISI being tapped into and reversing. I wanted to see at least the second one getting mitigated and then reversing to continue higher. At least it was something within the 50% of that monthly candle. If you actually look at it, this is a 6-7. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at ES right now. Basically the same thing, but if we're looking at this here, 25086. Now let's go into the daily. 25086 is right here. 25086. Yeah, so somewhere right here it lands on. So it does make sense to see this being targeted. But again, I'm just anticipating something. Price doesn't really have to do that. But overall, I just want to break down the first trade I took. Just coming into the session, we did have an SMT within this high right here with YM. YM was formed the failure swing and was not able to take out the previous day's high. Now breaking down into the 4-hour, we had this change in the state of delivery right here, as you can see, and then we had this SIBI that we formed right here. So a lot of confluences on these shorts here. I was personally, like I mentioned before, I wanted to target this area of interest right here. That was my initial target. I also did fade this daily BISI, like I said, because I personally wanted to see price go lower, especially based off the daily profile on this specific candle here. You could see how we had that change in state of delivery on the higher time frame with the 4-hour. I guess the one thing we didn't really see was a SMT within the 2 a.m. to the the 10 p.m. to the 2 a.m. or within the 6 a.m. currently when it was trading. If we go into the lower time frame on the 1-hour, we did have an SMT within the London highs right here with ES right over here. So, and then we also, if you notice right here, right afterwards, we did have a nice change in the state of delivery right here with a fair value gap. So there was a lot of like confluences to these shorts. Again, you can say that I was trading against the higher time frame. I just personally was just anticipating a retracement on the higher time frame for the better buys, right? So that was my idea. And again, based off this daily profile, I wasn't really expecting expansion just due to the fact that we expanded so low already towards Asia. We had this, we tapped into the BISI as mentioned, and then we had a retracement, right? Once we retraced, we now formed another change in the state of delivery. So where would be the next target? From IRL back to ERL. So that was my initial idea. But as you can clearly see, if we go on to the 5-minute, we had this SIBI, as I mentioned, on the hourly. I'm just going to take a few things here. This was a 4-hour SIBI that we had, but I'll just remove it just to make it a little cleaner. But we did have this SMT, as I mentioned, on the London highs, right? Then I wanted to see an SMT within the current session that we had. We did have one right here. at the 9 a.m. open, which was currently right here. You could see how we had an open high type of a move, and I was anticipating the low towards the close right here. We had the SMT just before the market open at 9:30. We formed this SMT with ES, and then we had this nice change in the state of delivery. While this was forming this change in state of delivery, YM actually was able to expand lower. So I think as a note, I did make a mistake choosing NQ as the weakest asset, because clearly if we look at YM and we go here, YM had the failure swing for the high of day, and then on the hourly I think we did have the oops, wait, right here, why is it not switching my hourly here? Okay, there we go. That was a little weird. We did have an SMT, I think it was right here. Let me just double check for you guys. So yeah, there was an SMT here as well, right here within the London highs right here. So what I was anticipating was with YM also to take out these lows right here. You could see how all this low resistance liquidity right here that we generated. So it made sense for YM to attack this, and I guess you can say that this was the most clear draw compared to the 30. And this actually technically broke the SMT that we currently had within the session. Let me just go back on the hourly because it's clear that way. Because as you can see, this low was the daily BISI that we had. As you can see right here, see? You can see how that was the low of the daily BISI. Sorry, the top of the daily BISI that was right here. So that, seeing that how that tapped into it, showed that we broke the SMT that we had at the current time with NQ and ES, because you could see how NQ and ES was able to tap into the BISI while YM failed to do so. So I guess just talking about that, I guess it made sense to trade YM since it was technically the weakest asset, and we were able to catch up with NQ and YM tapping into this BISI. Because again, I'm not gonna really say that like I was anticipating it to go lower. I should have just told myself, like, you know, at the end of the day, we are trading within a daily BISI, so there could be some situations where we could possibly get a reversal or at least some type of retracement back into, like, I would say like a premium, because you can clearly see how we expanded lower during Asia and now we're within a discount, right? Which clearly the daily BISI was a discount array, right? And once you see that, we can clearly go back into retracement mode, back to premium for better sells, right? If you wanted to think of it in that type of way. But yeah, other than that, YM was the clearest and most clear draw to trade into that low. If we break down on the 5 minute right here, you can see how we actually were able to form an SMT here. If we go back onto NQ here and show you, we had the SMT right here. Well, ES was the one to take out this high. NQ also failed to do so. But you can see how we then formed that change in the state of delivery and came into that draw. Again, it would have been a clear, I think this was a nice 2R right here, or 1.7. Still not bad. I'm pretty sure on the 3 minute it was a little clear. Yeah, you can see right here if we had that change in state of delivery right here. 1.8, again, it's not even that bad. And then the SMT right here within the current high. So 2.15, like we'll say a 2R. So again, it was the idea was right. I had the right idea. I guess we can say that I traded the wrong asset for that short idea. So I did take a little 1R loss here, because I did enter once we formed the change in the state of delivery, which was right here. I actually took it on the 5 minute. Let me just get back onto NQ right now so you can guys see it in a bigger picture. So right here was the initial entry. Sorry, this was the initial entry right here. stop loss was a little big because I had to respect the SMT. And then again, as I was anticipating a continuation off YM, because since again, it was the weakest asset at the moment, so I was anticipating NQ and ES to catch up. So I wanted to see price go lower, and this would have been my initial 2R objective right here. But you can see how we expanded, and right at 9:30, boom, we actually took out the high once again, which invalidated that short because we took out that SMT high. And then we actually went back lower, and then we actually took out London's low, sorry, pre-New York's low, which then offered the SMT that we had within YM, because you can see if we go back, and let's stay on the hourly here right now. Let me just erase all this here. You could see how we formed another SMT here. Right, so it showed this was a typical reversal off a higher time frame PD array, and then you can clearly see why we expanded much higher. Again, I personally waited for this 9 o'clock candle to form. I did not trade this specific C2 candle on the hourly. I wanted to wait to see how we would react off the 10 a.m., which was the new 4-hour candle, and you could see how we were able to close very good. We closed above the SIBI. We inversed it. So these are bullish signs that we're willing to go higher. And my draw would have been the daily open personally, because since we expanded and we formed such a large wick, I wasn't anticipating the previous day's high. I mean, like the current high that we had. I was just trying to target that daily open. So at the time, I actually was looking at ES, because ES was actually the closest towards that draw at the time. So like I was mentioning before, we had that SMT with YM, right? And then we had another current SMT with also YM, because YM, like I said, it was a very tricky day, and I'll show you why. Because you can see how on the hourly here, once we were expanding off 9 o'clock, look at the way 10 o'clock fully reversed that whole move, coming back to take out that the current 9 a.m. candle once again, right? So it was very tricky. I was still looking for shorts at this current moment, because seeing how YM was just reversing, right? And technically, if it was the weakest asset, this would reverse first, right? So I personally waited for 11 o'clock to trade, because I needed some more information. You can then see how ES was able to fully reverse and then form a bullish candle closure. So then 11 o'clock came, and then if we go down to our 3-minute, I was waiting personally for a change in the state of delivery, so like an open, low, high, close. This is the 11 a.m. candle right here. So you can see how we expand lower. Again, I think it was inducing people to sell as well, because usually if it's willing to expand, it wouldn't really expand this low to form its wick. Because again, you want to see some short wicks, right? You guys don't want to see no large wicks, because that just shows that it's not willing to expand. Something like the 10 a.m., right? You can see how the 10 a.m., look how large the wick is. Even the 11 a.m. is pretty large itself, just to show that it was willing to expand. You could see how then we just went lower. We formed some bearish signatures here. So what I wanted to see was at least a closure above this to give me the confidence that we were willing to go higher. You can see that we were able to change the delivery here, but then once again we were able to close back above this the 50% of this SIBI. So this is where I took action here, confirming the bullish bias here. I had my stop loss just above this low right here, and then I wanted to target the weekly. Sorry, it was actually below this low right here. So you can see how the target was the weekly open. Again, my 2R target was right there. Again, actually my entry was just a little above here because of I'm not sure why it made me enter right here. It was somewhere within this wick right here that I got the entry, But anyways, let me just fix that here. So yeah, my 2R target was this. It was basically 2R. It was the weekly open, the daily open right here. So that was my initial target. Once we started expanding, it was going good. If we go into the 5-minute, because the 5-minute, I usually just wait for a protected swing point to form for us. Let me just remove this so you can guys see it. I was waiting for this protected swing to form. Once we had that change in the state of delivery, we basically closed above it. On NQ, we actually did. If you can see it right here, we were able to close above it. So I was able to move my stop loss just below here within some profit. And then you can see how we failed to close above this specific high. We tapped into it and then we retraced back lower into a retracement, and then we started expanding higher. So overall, it was a very it was high resistance liquidity, to be honest, just the way it was just trying to reach for its draw. Clearly on any other day, instead of like NFP week, it would have easily just gone to that draw with ease. But yeah, it was a very valuable lesson today. I'm just happy that I was able to control my emotions specifically, and I was able to manage my risk very properly. That is the actual goal of this, because at the end of the day, during these specific times, you really want to be protecting your capital and making sure you're managing your trades and your risk specifically. So yeah, other than that, guys, that's it for this recap for today's session. Most likely I will be trading tomorrow, but it would be very difficult for me to actually tell myself to take a trade because it would be the day before NFP, so most likely it would be very choppy. But I'll definitely check it out, see how it is, and then we can go from there. If anything, have a good night, guys. Take care.